recording.
Yep. Welcome to the Cross Lake City Council meeting of February 13th. And I will call the meeting to order at this time. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did have a couple of additions to the agenda, so at this time, I would like a motion on the floor to approve the additions to the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Brad Nelson first.
I'll second it.
Second, Dave Schrupp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next thing on our calendar is, or on the agenda is the consent calendar. All items here listed are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. As you can see, we have 21 items on the consent agenda, and as always, it's filled with a lot of information. And this time we have the annual report from the Cross Lake Fire Department. So I would like you to take just a special note of that and review it on the website. It's quite impressive. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Dave Schrupp first.
I'll second.
Second by Brad Nelson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Going on, we have under critical issues a thank you. And we started an initiative called Friends of Cross Lake because we recognize that there are many organizations and volunteers and friends who not only give financially, but are generous with their time and talents. And so I'm going to ask John Henke to come up here and give our first Friends of Cross Lake Awards.
Good evening. I'm honored to talk a little bit about two important groups that we have in our community tonight, that being the Cross Lake Ideal Lions Club and also the Pal Foundation of Cross Lake. Just want to talk about a few things that they did in the last year. Last month in your consent calendar you had the report from the Cross Lake Ideal Lions Club for 2016, and they had donated $46,000 back to our community, which is it's amazing, and they support a wide variety of groups, from the kids over at Pequot Lakes, the trap shooting program, to scholarships, to the food shelf, to a bunch of our programs. They are a very important part of our community, so we wanted to recognize the Lions, and we also want to recognize the Park and Library Foundation of Cross Lake. They also had a busy year. They put out the Cross Lake Cabin Calendar each year, which all of us have grown to love, and a lot of people are already calling, wondering when the cabin calendars are coming out, so that just kind of goes with the territory. They help with the Light Up the Dam initiative. They help with our community garden, our patio garden, the July 4th fireworks presentation last year. We built a barge with the help of some community volunteers. Pal helped pay for the supplies to that barge, and worked with Brad Nelson and his crew, and a lot of people to thank on that, but Pal was a very important part of that process. They added our new bocce ball and shuffleboard courts. They sponsor our summer children's reading program. They put some benches along the trails of Cross Lake. We also started our Whitefish Warrior Adventure Run last year, which was a success that we're going to have again this fall. They added some winches to the gymnasium to provide for better use of that facility. And they are a continued supporter of our Nordic Ridge Trails, and the Cross Lake Ideal Lions and the Pal Foundation partnered up to come up with $5,000 to help us make the purchase of our Ranger that we picked up here a few weeks ago that many of you saw on WCCO News. So that was great publicity for Cross Lake. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have Jess Seide and Doreen Galloway come up, and I'm going to present them with a couple of plaques that we have. And then shortly after that, they have some donations, the donation money from the Ranger that they're going to present to the city after this. So, and they're going to bring Joel Knippel up too. He's also a member of the Pell Foundation. So, Doreen, this is presented to the Cross Lake Ideal Lions Club, and Jess presented to the Pell Foundation of Cross Lake. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
All right.
I think they deserve a big hand.
And then, as part of our purchase of the Ranger last month, we said we had to go out and get the checks to be able to make that purchase. And so tonight, the Lions Club and the Pell Foundation are presenting checks to the city to make that purchase. So,
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. On behalf of the Pell Foundation and the Lions Club, we want to thank you guys for helping make this possible, and we want to present the checks that will complete the purchase of the Ranger, which was very well needed and very much appreciated by all who are using it, and I think
Response
that's
is already
the
coming
track.
back. People are loving the trails, so.
Yes, yep, so very positive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we need a motion on this resolution. So you, council members, you had the resolution in your packets? Okay, so do you want me to read this? No, okay. So,
You should do a motion to accept
Yes.
these separately than the resolution.
okay, so do we have a motion on the floor to accept the donation from the PAL Foundation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
No, second.
Second by Dave, first by Dave Nevin, first by Brad Shupp. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, do we have a motion on the floor to accept the donation from the Cross Lake Ideal Alliance?
I'll make that motion.
Brad Nelson's first,
I'll second.
second, David Nevin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank
you.
you. Okay. Moving on to the next item under critical issues is to discuss and consider setting a date to hold a workshop. And for your information in the council packet for this meeting, we had 4 proposals from engineering firms. This weekend was the first chance for some of us to see them. So I would like the council to consider holding a workshop to review the proposals before we vote on an engineering firm for the city of Cross Lake. This allows Public Works to also review the proposals and the proposals from WSN and Bolton Menk for the maintenance and upgrade to our sewer system, and then come back to the council with a recommendation for both. Tonight, one of our council members is absent, and in March, we will have another council member absent. And so I believe it is important for the council members to be present for this vote, for all the council members to be here for this vote. So April 3rd at 5 p.m. is a tentative date for the workshop. Please let Shar know if this date works for your schedules. Otherwise, we will email you with other dates for your consideration. Is there any discussion at this point?
Is there any overlapping time between when Gary gets back and whoever's leaving?
Maybe a few days.
I mean, would we want to do it sooner than later, or does it matter? I don't know.
Brad, what's your opinion?
Well, my opinion was that I thought that we kind of had a consensus on the septic upgrade. You know, we had a few additional questions after that last Public Works meeting about, you know, that potential, maybe Ted can weigh in on this. You know, we were still talking a little bit about the well and the containers, you know, the big cement, you know, containers for the water for the fire department deal, and getting a couple of numbers and kind of figured out if it was an all or nothing, but we need to, I just feel we need to keep the ball rolling on that septic plant, and I don't know, that's another, basically now almost another 2 months by the time you have,
Oh, if you wait.
by the time you have that meeting on April 3rd, and then you wait for the next city council meeting a week later, we're talking almost 2 months from now.
You have two of these in front of you. One is the proposal for a city engineer.
Mm-hmm.
That's this one you're looking at now. And then the second one was under Public Works. Under item A was removed, and that was the sewer stuff. That was to do with starting the upgrade or starting with the proposal for the upgrade at the wastewater plant. The mayor and, I guess, so directed that it would be removed, so it's off for right now unless you guys want to put something back on and discuss it.
There was a discussion that the commission hadn't seen that yet, so somewhat, they've seen everything else, so we wanted to get input. We could probably get a special meeting going. I mean, if we do this before March 1, I can participate.
Okay?
And we do have some time here to deal with that issue.
Gary is going to be back for the February 24th meeting, so there's a week there at least, I
Yeah.
would think.
We'll
So-
be back the 20th.
20th?
Yeah.
So,
So do you want Shar and I to throw out some dates for you guys instead of sitting here for 10 minutes and looking at our calendars? Would that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I would just soon do it
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because we can hold a Public Works anytime, we can set it up. Most of the majority of them could be here, so,
okay.
and get it done sooner.
and I only have one comment, so that would be the sewer issue.
Right,
which
that's what I was
I'm on the
referring
same
to.
page. The other page that I'm having a whole lot of trouble with is, I spent about an hour looking at all these proposals that we got. I didn't learn anything. So, we're going to have a workshop, but what I'm hoping we're going to get is a recommendation from the staff. We don't work with the engineers as much as you, so input that you have would really be helpful to me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but
Take care of that at the same meeting, though, in February?
if they can get their information together. I think you need to have some criteria on how you're going to decide.
Well, just as an example, 3 of these firms I've worked with in my career. They're all of the firms are good firms. It's what we want to get out or the council wants to get out of them. So, and I can come up with a recommendation and come down with something behind it if you want.
Perfect. I
Okay.
heard it right here.
Okay, so do you want to try to move that meeting up, that workshop up to February?
The sooner the better, I guess, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So is it okay if Shar sends out some dates to everyone? And we'll, they might not be in the evenings, they might be early mornings, whatever, but we'll see what works best for all.
It's fine, yep.
Okay. So we will have our workshops hopefully between now and the end of February, and we will need a motion on the floor to set that workshop date to be determined.
I will make that motion. Huh?
What,
Well, at least it could table the number C2 at least, that you're agreeing all by motion to table it.
okay. So we will put out an email to all of the council people and, for a date. Okay, good.
Just so we can hopefully do the engineer in March. Maybe. But I guess you're going to be gone.
I'm going to be gone, yeah.
But since it's on the agenda, it's probably good to just have a motion to table it until whenever
I'll
you
make a
set the-
motion that we
Okay.
table it until
Okay.
the last week of February. Date to be determined.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carried. Okay, moving on to the mayor's report. Resolution accepting donations, and this is a resolution from the Cross Lake Ideal Lions for a donation of $3,500 to the fire department equipment. And council people, you have had this in your agenda, and so we would need a motion on the floor to accept this donation?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
First, David Nevins, second, Dave Schrupp. Motion carried. There are too many Brads and Davids around here. Thank you. Then the next thing under the mayor's report is a letter from the Crow Wing County Power, and I'll just read portions of it to you. The Crow Wing Power Board of Directors met in January to review the Cooperative Municipals Meter Relief Program and decided to continue the program for another year. Although the program has been underway for many years, it is evaluated by the board annually. Under the Municipal Meter Relief Program, the City of Cross Lake currently has 8 meters that the cooperative is forgiving the normal monthly service fee. In 2016 alone, the City of Cross Lake saved $1,728, and in the past year, we have saved over $16,000. In addition, the city receives special lighting credit each year based on 1% of the total gross revenues within the entire city. For 2016, the City of Cross Lake received a credit of over $40,000 toward your street lighting program. So that letter is from Crow Wing Power. The next letter that we received was from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and they are pleased to inform us that we are receiving a 2016 wastewater treatment facility operational award. We reviewed the submitted data and permit records for compliance from September 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016. We are confirmed as a recipient of the certificate for outstanding operation, maintenance, and management of your wastewater treatment. Congratulations on your efforts. And this award will be given out March 29th through the 31st in Minneapolis at the Water Operations Conference. So thank you, Ted.
Good job, Ted.
The next item on the agenda are 2 commission appointments, both of them alternates. One is for Mick Tachita for Public Works, Cemetery, and Sewer Commission, and you have his application in. The other is for Mark Linder as an alternate for Planning and Zoning. And so we have Mark in our audience tonight, so I think we need to thank both of these people for volunteering their services for these commissions. Thank you. So we need a motion on the floor to approve the commission appointments.
I'll make that motion.
Dave Schrupp first,
I'll second.
Brad second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on, and this is the best one. This is the best one. Dear Mayor Norgaard, I am writing to you in regards to a public work employee. Last night, around 6 p.m., I was shoveling at the end of my driveway on Dream Island Road. The employee was plowing the road with the pickup. He went down the street and then came back the opposite way. I was now shoveling out by my mailbox. This employee slowed down and then stopped and backed up and cleared in front of my mailbox and in front of my driveway. I just want to let you know the employee went out of his way to assist me in removing the snow. It brightened a long day of snow removal. Thank him and the Public Works Department for a job well done. Thank you, Ted. Okay. Dan, you are on the line?
Public forum.
Oh, public forum. Public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. So is there anybody who would like to come up and speak at the public forum? The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm Doreen Galloway with the Cross Lake Ideal Lions, and Patty and I were talking one day, and I realized that I had kind of let the slip out of my little basket of things that I need to do, and I need council's approval to be able to hold our flea markets this season on the school property where the old Catholic Church used to be. So that's what I need to do, and the dates are the same as they were last year. They'll be the third Saturday in May, June, July, and August, and the last Saturday for Cross Lake Days in September. Any questions?
Can you do that? Just throw it in?
Well, yeah.
It's basically,
Pending,
Yeah.
pending. the
Pending
paperwork being
application?
completed.
yeah,
Yep.
so then I'll just stop by and I do that, and that's, then,
Okay.
okay, perfect.
Are there any questions for Doreen? I think this is about your fourth year on doing this?
Yeah, I think it is, and this will be now, we're going into our second year. We have earmarked, the Lions Club has earmarked all of the funds that we raise through this flea market will be going to the building fund for the new school. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Good. Okay. Any other questions for Doreen? Is there a motion on the floor to issue a permit to the Ideal Cross Lake, or
I'll
Cross
make
Lake
a
Ideal
motion
Lions?
pending the
Okay.
paperwork.
Okay, thank you.
Get done.
First by David Nevin, a second.
All second?
Second by Brad Nelson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Okay. Now we will move on to the city administrator's report.
I can take this first one.
Okay.
It's to set a date for the local boards of appeal and equalization. The suggested date from the county assessor is Friday, May 5th at 10 a.m. And we really don't have much leeway on that.
Okay.
So if you can just make a motion,
Yes.
if it works for at least 3 of you to be there, we just need a quorum.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on that? If not, I need a motion on the floor to approve the date of the local boards of appeal.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, first by Brad Nelson, second by Dave Schrupp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Thank you.
The second item is to name a street that is currently unnamed. And in order to do this, it has to be an ordinance amendment, which is in front of you, item 2A, and then request to publish that in summary form in the paper is item 2B.
Is there any questions or discussion for Shar on that? If not, do we have a motion on the floor for a request to name a new street?
I'll make that motion.
Dave Schrupp first,
All second?
Brad Nelson a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We miss Gary here. Otherwise, you guys get to talk all the time.
Where is our new street?
Shar, do you want to tell them where it is, or Ted?
Do you have the map, Mike?
It's at the Heritage Way,
Yeah.
from the hardware to Town Square, cutting across the lot.
Oh. Oh, so you'll be able to go in the backside now, huh? All right. Well, how about that? A new street.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then do you want to take the last,
We need a second
Oh, wait,
motion on that.
I'm sorry.
On 2B? We need
on
a,
2B?
to-
Okay.
for a summary publication.
Okay, thank you. And then the approval to publish the summary, we need an approval on that.
I'll make that motion.
Dave Schrupp first,
I'll second.
Dave Nevin second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. And the last one under the city administrator's report.
Is approval of the comp plan. One of the work groups from the Minnesota Design Team is the comp plan group, and several of those members met with Bolton and Mink and NJPA and interviewed them, and we felt that both of them were equally capable of getting the product done. So we didn't want to use this as a criteria, but that's what it came down to, is the price. So, and JPA came in at 8,000, and that's who we're recommending, but that's up to you.
And they give a discount to cities? I mean, is that what you said earlier, Patty? That's why there's a big
In
price
Region
difference in
5?
that. Yeah.
Are there any other questions or discussion on that?
Because the purpose was to, update it. So that seems like, financially, I mean, I guess I don't know what to expect that you get done with the comp plan for that, but you wouldn't think that it would, be that expensive or that comprehensive to just update the comp plan.
NJPA is an independent, they're not part of the design team or part of
No,
anything, they're an
no, National
independent.
Joint Powers Alliance, right.
Okay.
I can only speak from experience here. It may be that if you decide to go with NJPA, that it may be slightly less because some of the initiatives that they host to do a comprehensive plan within the city, a lot of it has already been accomplished by the Minnesota Design Team, and so we don't want to duplicate some of those efforts, so it may be less than what's proposed. Any other questions? If not, could I have a motion from the floor to hire NJPA to update the comprehensive plan?
I will make that motion.
I'll
Dave-
second it.
David Nevin first, Brad Schrupp second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried.
Doesn't sound good.
Didn't it?
No, I'm
Brad Schrupp.
Brad
Oh,
Schrupp.
That's all right, go get it.
Okay.
Turn this direction?
Right. Oh, dear. That's why I said we needed Gary here tonight. Okay. That concludes the city administrator's report. Moving on to commission reports under planning and zoning.
Good evening. I've got before you tonight an application to, it's a meets and bounds subdivision request. This actually came before the Planning Commission back in May, and due to some disagreements between neighbors on access and that sort of thing, it was, they had to kind of come to some agreements on how to get access to the property as far as easements, but that's been resolved, and they're here now to get this subdivision approved. It was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, and it's over adjacent to Sandy Shores Road and County Road 3, and it's the creation of one lot in there. They've worked everything out as far as easements for access, and if there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of the subdivision as it's been submitted, and to also accept the $1,500 park dedication fee in lieu of land for parks in the future.
Are there any questions for Mr. Pence? Or comments? If not, I'd like a motion on the floor for the subdivision approval and the park dedication fees.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Dave Schrupp first,
I'll second.
Brad Nelson second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next one on our list is Public Works. And Mr. Strand.
Good evening.
Hi, Ted.
The first one, we have a request from a resident off of Big Pine Drive.
that what you wanted? Sorry.
Yep, there you
Okay.
go, thank you. Big Pine Trail down here. Big Pine Drive is this piece right here. Currently, the residents that are acquiring or getting to their property are going down this little gravel trail across the properties. This resident right here, Mr. Carlson, is having difficulty with his title company. And what he's requesting is to clear, this piece is already cleared, to clear a piece of this right away about 12 foot in width, to continue his driveway, and then enter his property at this point. I saw no problems with this. This is what this property purpose was. This is a dedicated city right away. It's just unimproved, and he wants to go in at his cost and grub it out and put gravel on it and use it as a driveway, and I didn't see any problems with it. I think we'd want to have the attorney just drop a simple agreement. You know, he's not taking ownership, we're not, going to maintain it, any of those kinds of things, and I can work with Brad to do that, so.
What do the property owners down the line feel about it, Ted? Are they going to want to continue that down too, or
These here, properties on
Yeah,
this end, they
yeah.
actually access off the other road.
all of them do?
The only one that doesn't is this one, and the way it sounds, they're just gonna continue the driveway on down, so. I asked that specific question, and he said he's just gonna continue it down there, so they all have access off of it.
So that's the guy that's got the trailer tearing it down, building a house, and
Yep.
they got to clean that up,
Yep, clean up the title work, and otherwise you can't get his financing.
right? I've been out there, there's no problem with.
Seems
Do you have
reasonable.
any questions or comments for Ted on that?
But it's at his expense too, isn't there a big hill or something there he's got to,
There's a bit of a knob he's gotta take and work through, yeah.
but he's going to do that, huh?
Yep. He's waiting for your approval to go get some quotes to get it done, so.
Let's give it to him.
Okay, so we need a motion on the floor to approve the
I will
attorney.
make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
I'll make it. Second.
Second, Dave Schrupp. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item C is we have, the road projects, we have this coming season. The road projects we have this coming season on Anchor Point and Melinda Shores. There's areas of these two roads that we're working in that we don't have a dedicated right-of-way. And it would be the commission's recommendation to the council to authorize WSN and our city attorney to do a right-of-way plot on both of those streets. WSN has attached a proposal for the amount that would cover this, but when we're talking $700,000-800,000 of the roads for a $10,000 to $15,000 to make sure all the right-of-ways in their proper spot. I think it's pretty.
But that's not addressing any of the trails that we're considering adding to them, right?
No, all this is getting
Just
the
the
right-of-way
road.
cleaned up, so everything is, Brad was at the meeting, he can talk to it too. But there's several areas that are kind of or no man's land, we don't know who really owns it, so.
Aren't those trails going to come right along with it?
Well, yeah, you're kind of on two different subjects here. I mean, we had a conversation, I was just commenting about the end of Anchor Point where that, before you get to Ginseng Patch, where the road gets so narrow, and by the time you get to the end of a road, you've now, basically done away with 95% of your potential traffic, right? And that's so narrow between Rush Lake and the pond, whatever there's a name for that, something bay or whatever. So anyway, that was just a point that I made, is that we considered, why spend the money to kind of weave between that very narrow area and then complete a walking path in an area that basically, like I said, it's at the end of the cul-de-sac. But the point here being was, the first thing is to just get all of these, all the property points and access points and everything, legally identified, the right-of-ways. So that when we're ready to go, when you look at as Ted mentioned, the cost of the overall project versus, the monies to go in there and, make sure that we know where everything is and where everybody's property points are, and that the commission felt that was was a worthy investment instead of having a problem later.
We know of that there's two areas specifically. One is in the ponds, and another one is up by Forest Lodge that owners are disputing. They say they own both sides, and the road is across their property, so.
Are we trying to increase the right-of-way or anything?
No,
Just
alls we're
seems
just
like-
trying to clean up and,
That road's been in there for so long, it seems like we wouldn't have to do anything. You just resurface
I could maybe
it.
add to that a little bit. So I would recommend doing this in every road project we do around here, because it's not that, by law, the physical pavement, if we've been maintaining it for 6 years, we own it by use, but technically, you don't technically have title until you go to court and prove you've been using it for 6 years. I don't think anybody disputes what's pavement out there. Problem is, when you got a 66-foot right-of-way, only about 24 feet of that's pavement. Where exactly does the edge of that road stop and start? And it's really hard for city staff to decide, for example, what's your setback for your garage? Well, we don't even know where the street stops. How do we're kind of guessing out there in the field all the time. So it'd be
Could this
nice to
set
have
it
this
up
in
to
every
be-
street in town, but that's going to be cost prohibitive. So at least when you're doing a road project, it's an easy way to kind of add that to the total cost. Where you have plats, it's obvious. So when you do a right-of-way plat, which is different than a normal plat, they'll do the whole length of the whole road, and they'll fill in like easement number such and such where it got recorded, or we'll get them if we don't have it. Parts of it might be platted, and those are already of record, and they'll just say, hey, part of Jinxing plat number 1 or whatever. But good chunks of that road have been there forever, and we don't really know where it stops and starts. We declare it 66 feet wide, but that doesn't make it so. We got to prove, where it stops and starts.
So, I don't mean to drag this out, but if we get into a narrow spot, do we have to acquire more land to make it 66 feet then? Is that possible if somebody's disputing it?
It could be, to Ted's point, in most places, people are going to say, hey, we know Anchor Point's been there for 100 years. We know that in general they're 66 feet wide. We're going to stake it, and they say, oh yeah, it's about where we thought it would have been. No worries. But in a couple spots, somebody might say, that's 9 feet closer than I thought it was, and we might only get 58 feet there. We might have to negotiate that. Or we might choose to pay them some money to get the last 9 feet. Or we might condemn.
But regardless, it'll be cleaned up.
Point is, we don't know the solution until we talk to people, but the idea is to start the process. Hopefully, 95% of the people aren't going to have any dispute whatsoever about, well, let's stake it, now we know where it's at.
and the same problem exists on Melinda Shores, which is the other project we're doing this year. There's areas of that where we go through no man's land. Nobody really knows who owns it other than we claim it because we're driving over it. But so both of those projects, the proposal from WSN is $22,000 to
Right.
complete the project.
Okay. Any other questions for Ted? If not, can I have a motion on the floor to direct the attorney to draft agreements for the right-of-way plats for Melinda Shores and Anchor Point Road?
I'll make that motion.
Brad Nelson first.
And we're seconding it just to give WSN the authority to do it. I mean, we're telling them to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, second.
I'll second. Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. The last one I guess I have is the Dream Island Bridge. We have sent or WSN has sent letters to the property owners, and they've come back to us and said, no, that's not enough money. We had a legitimate appraisal done of the properties. It could take us a long, lengthy time to keep going through these negotiations. It's probably cheaper that the commission thought we just go into condemnation, and then there will be a group that's set up, and there'll be a fee figured out, and that's what it comes down to. But it's probably cheaper than trying to keep throwing these negotiations. So the recommendation was start condemnation on the two properties for the easements on the Dream Island Bridge. Now, if Brad's got something to add to it, or?
Well, I can explain the process, whether to condemn or not, that's your call, but how it works or the timeline or cost, I can go into that, but,
So the city offered them 27.6 and they came back and said it wasn't enough? Is that right? And so if we go in condemnation, we're going to just take it?
No, they still will be compensated for their property. It'll be probably someplace between what he thinks it's worth and what we have offered him is where it'll be.
but our appraisal will be that number, and then he'll get his own appraiser. We can assume it'll be higher. And then a court decides somewhere in between, or pick one of those two, you know?
He has to still prove his appraisal. I mean, he has to document some evidence that it's worth that much.
Has there been any attempt to counter this and save the city the costs of, I mean, from looking at this on paper, then you would kind of see how this would end up in front of a judge who would probably want to split the difference somewhere, and, right? I mean, we've, obviously, our appraisal is where the 27.6 came from. He's probably looking at a little blue sky, or, you know, I mean, has that been considered? Is that an option? Just see if we could make a nice little counter in the middle and save everybody courts?
The commission, they talked about it, and their feeling was that they didn't think they were going to get to any kind of compromise. So their recommendation was to start the condemnation and to get it done with. So we have title to the property when we do get the bonding from the state.
And what's the process if we don't get the bonding from the state? I mean, if you start these procedures and you're looking for this chunk of property, but we don't know what,
We would still then have ownership of it, and at some time when the bridge fails, we'd have to do something out there, so we would use it probably at that time.
okay.
Isn't the other issue here that the second resident is unreachable?
Yeah, they won't,
So-
we've sent registered letters, haven't even got back to us. Phone calls, nobody's answered.
So this is just one of the two parcels that's needed,
No, there's two parcels, one on each side there, so,
but different people.
yes.
So the one you haven't heard from, so you don't know what that number is.
No,
And you
but-
haven't offered them anything.
No, and, well, the letter did, with the recommendation of the appraisal was, that was what was offered to them, and we got nothing back, no feedback at
So
all.
we could be giving up $100,000 to put the road in to where it's been forever. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 27.6 here on one side, and he's countering 45, and this is just one piece. So there's
Right.
another
So
one
then
yet to
double
be
it.
determined. Who do we use for appraisal? How does the city,
We got two quotes,
from certified property appraisals, I mean,
Yes, we got
you're
two-
not asking a realtor
yeah,
this
we got two
question,
quotes.
or-
WSN was familiar with two different people that have done this in the past for them. We got two of them, quotes on that. We took the least costly and the one that has done a lot of them, and that's the one we went and got the appraisal. And I can't tell you what he uses to set that appraisal. I don't know how they set that value.
Could I chime in, two more thoughts? I mean, the second one is way less, by the way, so it's not like double 27. I mean, it's only 3,400 is the.
It's a much smaller
our-
piece of property.
Yeah, so it's not in the 100,000, so that's one comment. The second is, even though it makes sense to your point, we could easily spend in litigation and appraisal costs, the difference between 27,000 and 45. That wouldn't shock me. Problem is, we're a city, and we got this project, we've already negotiated appraised value, and for other people on this project, they've already said yes. And we've got, a couple this year, a couple next year, a couple, so it's really hard to give one guy more because he whines, and everybody else has to pay, gets appraised value. So, I mean, just be careful of that consistency.
Can we put a sign up there that we'd love to put the bridge in, but Bill won't let us?
Well, we are in a public meeting, so,
Are there any other questions or comments for Ted or for Brad?
One other question. So if we go to condemnation, it'll never come back here again? We'll just find out what it was agreed to?
No, that's not. So it's a lot like other litigation. You've been involved in a few now already, unfortunately. Good odds that before we go to the final trial stage, that they do respond, or the one guy that hasn't responded gets a lawyer, or we might resolve it before it goes all the way. So very good odds it will come back for you in some way before the end game. But in the end, it is to answer your question, if we don't resolve it in the beginning there, it does at some point, the process takes over and the judge is going to decide what the price is. And once you've committed to you're stuck with whatever the judge says, even if this bridge doesn't get built for 7 years, or pick a number. I mean, that is true.
I do know that when we started the bridge project, that the city's portion, state's paying some of it, city's paying some, and the residents on the island are paying some, but the city and the residents on the island were told it was about $80,000. But then WSN went ahead and they got approval from MnDOT and everybody else to narrow the bridge and to change the sight lines a little bit, to slow the speed down, and that reduced the cost, and it took away this issue that we're dealing with on the north side of the bridge. So perhaps that 80 might be down to 60, I don't know. So whatever that's worth. So I'm not sure it's going to be, a $60,000 hit to the projected costs that we had last 8 years ago when we thought we'd do this, or whenever it was.
Well, what would our other options be? I mean, if people aren't,
Try to negotiate
Yeah.
more.
Well, if the project's not imminent, I mean, you could table it and give it a few months and see if anything changes. But at some point, one more thing just so you can make an informed decision. If we get the grant funding and it's time to do the project, it does take about 120 days from when we start this to actually have title so we can do the project. So it doesn't take forever, but you can't just at the very end say, well, let's hurry up and condemn it, we got to do the project. We need to do it at least 4 months prior.
And I think there's something, if I remember him telling me, we have to have clear title to it before we start the project. I don't think they'll award us the money unless we got it.
I'm sure they're going to want to see we have clear title before they, process it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as bad as it sounds, I guess we need to move ahead with this process. So I'll make a motion that we move ahead with the commission's recommendation.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
With that, I have nothing else, I guess. I want to thank you. I always feel like I'm the one that's bringing up the worst stuff up here, but try to be positive.
Hey,
It
but
was
you
a
got
good
an
night.
award.
Right, it was a good night for you, Ted.
Yes, thank
It
you.
was a good night.
I thought you were going to Hawaii. Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, our last commission report is Park and Rec. John Hanky.
Already touched on the Lions and the PAL Foundation's donation earlier in the meeting, but also would like to thank our local skiers that donated funds, almost $1,000, towards the purchase of our new grooming equipment that we have. So, also wanted to announce a new club that we started at the community center. They just met this afternoon. They play a game called Bunko. It's played with dice, and they play Monday afternoons from 1 to 3:30. So if you want to come down and give that a try, you're welcome on Mondays to come down to the community center. Tonight, we had another dog park committee meeting, and a bunch of us got together and talked about the possibility of a dog park in Cross Lake in the future. We have been looking at some sites down at the Public Works Garage and working with Ted to locate some possible locations down in that area that have water, that are close to County Road 3. We've got security cameras down in that area. We've narrowed it down to somewhere close to the Public Works facility on city land. And we wanted to get council approval to have a public informational meeting sometime in March to talk about that and just wanted to make sure that we had a consensus to go ahead. I'm not really asking for a motion unless you think we need one, but our next meeting for the Dog Park Committee is going to be March 6th, so we'll talk a little bit more about details then and possibly have that open house at the end of March or in early April, if that sounds okay with the council. Did talk to one of the residents that would be closest to the park down there. Obviously, property owners aren't excited anytime you want to build a public facility next to them, no matter if it's a dog park or a skate park or a tennis court or whatever. They had some concerns about just increase in traffic. And the unique thing about the Public Works site is that we have a road through Public Works that doesn't have to go by any residences. So if that is a concern, we can narrow some of the access and locate that through our streets that go through that facility instead of bringing traffic in front of people's houses. So it's just an option that we can look at. But happy to answer any questions any of the council members might have. Obviously, this is going to be a project that's funded by donations. So this isn't going to be part of the park budget this year. And once we get a firm idea of where we're going to build it, what the rules are, we're going to have that public informational meeting, probably bring feedback to you guys. If we need a formal public hearing, we can have that before you make any recommendations or tell us to go ahead with the project. But we want to get all our ducks in a row so we can start raising funds for this. If we feel that this is a reality, we want to get the picture out there, we want to get the public behind us and start raising funds for the project so we can add another amenity for the community here in Cross Lake. So happy to answer any questions, if there is any. If not, well.
Are there any questions?
How big a park are you thinking it's going to be?
Well, right now, if you're familiar with the Public Works garage area, they've got a drainage area right behind the decontamination unit.
Yep.
There's a big grassy area. It's got a little wet area in the middle of that, but it's a pretty good area right through there. That's one of the areas that we're looking at possibly fencing around and using that. So you need a pretty good area. These dogs, you want to give them space to run. And we want to have two separate areas, one for more passive dogs and another bigger, larger area for more rambunctious dogs that aren't going to be intimidated by other dogs and are down there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're using the site in Brainerd, their dog park, and Pequot Lakes, and a bunch of other parks to come up with what we want to use.
People really
here.
use them?
Oh, yeah, they're very
They're good?
popular. They're all across the country. They're one of the most popular park amenities these days are these dog parks. They're good for the owners, and they're good for the pets. They also have a lot of people that can't have dogs that go to socialize with pets. Maybe they used to have a pet and they can't have one where they live, or they're really popular. I was kind of amazed by that too. I kind of had that same viewpoint until we started doing the research, and they are well-used facilities and nice amenities for communities to have. So. And the best part of it is it's not costing us much money, Dave, so, all donations, so.
Are there any other questions for John regarding the dog park?
All right, thank you. We've got another AAA senior driving course happening at the Community Center Thursday, February 23rd, and also on Thursday, March 9th. Those are both refresher courses, like I said, 9 to 1. And you can call AAA at 888-234-1294, or you can call the Community Center for their phone number. Roof update, I think Mr. Nevin brought up last month. He was just wondering about an update on the roof project. WSN, Norson, and the City of Cross Lake will be sharing the expenses to repair the Community Center roof, and we decided that at the joint meeting we had last fall. And that will be, the work will be completed by Equity Builders, who were the roofers on the project the first time. So between those groups, we're going to work together, and we're waiting for a price from Evan Thompson, is the owner of Equity Builders. He's also a local fireman that we have here in town. So as soon as he gets that estimate in, we can start moving ahead with that project as soon as it warms up a little bit and get that straightened out and done. So, any questions at all on that, council? All right, also doing tax appointments at the community center. Reservations are being accepted for Tuesday and Wednesday mornings from 9 to noon. You can call the community center for an appointment. Those are filling up fast, so call as soon as you can if you want to get on the list for this year. And then I wanted just to give a quick update on our public access process. Remember last year, we talked about the 4 accesses that go into the water. Shar and I have been working together on getting those permits together. Shar has got the permits ready to go. Been kind of testing what we're going to use over the winter to see how they weather. Looks like they're going to do real well. There's 4 sites that we're talking about, Robert Street, Ginseng Patch, Park Landing, and Oak Lane. And that's a 3-year permit. It costs $20 for the permit. So any trailer going into the water at those locations needs to have one of these permits. And you can purchase the permits at City Hall. And we require all the people that want a permit to watch the video that the DNR has on invasive species. And we're going to try to make that available here at City Hall, or they can watch it online, or you can actually request, the DNR actually sends DVDs out for people that request one of these discs, but we'll make it easy for people to watch that. They sign for the permit and pay their $20, and they're good for 3 years. We're going to restrict parking at 3 of the sites. We are going to allow some parking at Robert Street because there's ample area there to park. The other locations are kind of a problem with people parking there and usually causes some trouble. So that's what we're looking at. This got approved last November, but I'm just giving you an update. It's something that we'll be looking at here in the next couple months. When the ice comes off, people will be wanting to use the accesses. And there is signs up at all 4 locations, so if they pull in there, you can't miss the signs. They're right next to where you put the boat in the water. You're not gonna miss it. Has all the contact information, where you need to go to get the permit, the rules for the access, all the stuff is included in the sign. So that is the update on that. And if there isn't any other questions, that's my report for
So
the
that's
night.
in effect this spring. I mean, you gotta have.
It's in effect right now technically, but no one's putting their trailers in the water obviously till ice comes out, but it's something that we approved last November 15th, that went into effect. So,
Any other questions or comments for John?
Oh, thank you.
okay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John.
Thanks, John.
We are now ready for another public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute limit. Does anybody have any comments for us tonight? Okay, moving on. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? We will now have our city attorney report.
The only report is just that litigation issue that we need to go into closed session again about.
Okay. Now we will entertain a motion for this meeting to be adjourned.
And then just to make the note that we'll go into closed session and we might come back into open if we make final action.
Yes. Did everybody hear that? I'll repeat it, that the council is going into closed session, and if any decision is made, we will come back here to the council chambers
To announce the decision.
to announce the decision. Thank you.
So do we adjourn the meeting now or just wait?
Well, whatever the label we want to call it, we're going into closed, and we will come back into open if we make a final decision. So it might not be done for the night.
Right.
So do you want to adjourn this meeting right now, then?
But make a motion to recess the meeting might be a better
Okay, that's,
term.
yeah, okay,
I'll make a
Okay.
motion that we recess.
That-
I'll second.
Go into closed session.
okay, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.